to Athletics LLC with Lamar, Lucius, Big League Chew, and my man Clyde. You're about to be schooled in all things track and field. This is experience.
Yes, sir.
We are talking past, present, future. Y'all listen up. Let's go.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all, depending on when you're hitting play. Welcome to another fun episode of Athletics LLC. As always, we've got some fun people on the screens to hear their opinions, their motivating factors for why we show up and talk every week. So let's get started. My name is Big League Chew, joined by Lamar, no coronavirus.
I'm negative.
Oh my God. Clyde.
Gotta do something about that, man.
And Lucius.
Oh, welcome everyone. It's going to be a good evening. Please stay tuned.
Go get tested, everybody.
See, just based on that statement alone, what are we talking about? Literally, what are we talking about?
I mean, get tested for something.
Hey, something. ADD, something, right?
Hey, there's some letters out there and some numbers. Go get tested for something.
Oh my goodness. All right. So we're on a roll. We're on a roll already. So let's start batting 1,000. So last week we talked about We Are United, the hashtag created in the Pac-12 and was supporting that players, regardless of sport, wanted support for a lot of things, not just one. This week we saw We Want to Play. So let's talk about that. This was a movement that was started by prominent players, and there are a lot of coaches who are supporting this movement as well. What are we seeing as some of the issues that stand with this week?
I find, first of all, it's hilarious that the world continues to change so rapidly around us. It's almost like every hour we get a new twist in the COVID year that is 2020 and all that it affects. We all had our words to say about, We Are United last week. The We Want to Play thing I found really, really interesting and hilarious on many levels. First of all, the people who are cheerleading it, something I always say to my kids and my friends is, if you want to know if you're on the right side of an argument, find out who is on your side of the argument. So the people who are out in the public space, trumpeting this We Want to Play, starting in the White House, seem to have some very interesting takes on this issue. I understand that the players want to play. I get that. I understand that the coaches want to coach and want to have their teams play. I'm a coach. I hope my season gets to, go on the way I would like it to go on. But at the end of the day, the kids and their opinions and the coaches and their opinions are irrelevant to the medical facts of the situation. And I find it ironic that administrators and especially football coaches all of a sudden really, really care about what the kids have to say and their opinions when it's in line with the messaging that they want. A week ago, no one cared about what the kids had to say. Nobody was jumping up and down and saying, you know what, these kids are right. I didn't see one football coach go on TV when it was We Are United. I didn't see one coach do that. But all of a sudden it's We Want to Play, and then you got a whole bunch of coaches out there on TV cheerleading the thing. To me, this whole thing, I think the kids, I think the athletes that are on the We Want to Play side are letting their passion for their game allow them to be manipulated into a fight that's way above their head. And they're being used as pawns to stomp out the progress that the original movement wants to make. Trevor Lawrence, who I think is a fantastic quarterback, clearly is going to be probably a top 2 pick in the NFL. Whether he plays football this year or whether he doesn't, his future is pretty much secure. So I find it really interesting that he goes out and has so much to say about the living environments and the dangers of where some of his teammates might get sent back to if they're not going to be playing football. It's interesting because none of that applies to him. And for me, all the people that are using this red herring issue of, if the kids don't get to play football, what are we sending them home to? Well, don't send them home. They're on your campuses right now. You're taking care of them. You got them living in dorms and they're eating on campus. Why do you have to send them home if the season gets canceled? You don't have to do that. If you're really worried about the kids and where they come from and the dangers that they have back home, if your season gets canceled, leave them on your campus. Let them train for whatever it is they need to train for, be it the NFL draft, be it the combine, be it the next season. There's no reason that you have to send them home to their deaths, as people are trying to make it seem like that's the issue. So I find it interesting and a little manipulative. And like I said, when the side of the issue you're on is being trumpeted by today's White House, you might want to rethink your position.
Well, you know, I find your comments very interesting because you use words and you make accusations that I find interesting. You know, but let's just address what Trevor Lawrence said. Trevor Lawrence has no control over whether somebody gets sent home or not. And because Trevor Lawrence has the compassion to be worried about his teammates. That's not the White House. That's not the coaches. That's a young man making a statement for what he feels. I don't know how that makes him a pawn, because that's a young man that made a statement based on what he felt. Being a pawn is being used by someone. He's not being used. The other word you used was cheerleader. Okay, so if the coaches disagreed with the "We Are United" statement, then that's why they were silent. So that's why they didn't get up on their soapboxes and cheer, because they didn't agree with it. So because they agreed with this, so they back these guys because they want to play also. That means that there's somehow bad people. I disagree. They don't make them bad people. That's just, they have that opinion and they're entitled to it. So just as the "We Are United" people are allowed to have their stance, does not mean that these guys to say we want to play shouldn't have theirs as well. So the rhetoric that you're using, that they're being used as pawns to squash the other movement. I told you a week ago this is going to happen. That there's going to be guys that stand up and they want to play. Because most players, that's what they do. Athletes want to be athletic. Athletes want to compete. So there's no mystery to this happening. But we have to stop trying to tie everything to the White House, because this has nothing to do with the White House. Just because Trump, whoever wants to see college football played, doesn't mean it's a horrible idea. Doesn't mean that because somebody in the White House wants football to play, and good college players want to play, now it's an awful idea.
Oh, no, you misunderstood that. You misunderstood that. What I'm saying is I'm using the White House example as a notion of what this really is ultimately about, which is a play of politics.
Okay, and I got that. But Trevor Lawrence has nothing to do with your politics. So that's where it goes wrong for me. Because nobody from the White House called Trevor Lawrence or called Justin Fields and told him to stand up and say what they had to say. So, again, last time I checked, this is America. And you're allowed to speak your mind, and they spoke their mind, and you're allowed to have an opinion. Okay, Look, I am not going to stand up and tell anybody that I agree with half the stuff that comes out of Washington, D.C. But that's not what this is about. Okay, we're talking about what these guys, they have the right to stand up and ask to play, just like the other guys have the right to say we don't want to.
Absolutely.
But to make this political and to call them pawns, to call them cheerleaders, is wrong, in my opinion. Okay.
I just called Trevor Lawrence a cheerleader.
You said, okay.
Let me be clear.
At the end of the day,
let me be clear.
Okay, there's no pawns.
The players are allowed to have whatever opinions they want.
Absolutely. As are the coaches and anybody else that wants to have an opinion.
The people
just
I refer
you're allowed to have your opinion, they're allowed to have
That's right. The people I refer to as cheerleaders are the people in positions of power who want a certain thing a certain way. And so as soon as the kid steps out and says and puts out their speech, trumpets their speech that they want, all of a sudden they rush to cameras and that's exactly what we're talking about. But when it's on the other side, they didn't have anything to say.
Because they disagreed.
Well, then step out there and have a step out there.
There's no different than you, as we well know. If something that you're not for, you ain't standing up and backing it.
Oh no, not backing it. But
I'm gonna let you ride with that, because here's my thing.
So wait. That's the point. That's the point. If I agree with something, I'm gonna tell you. If I disagree with something, I'm gonna tell you.
But that's you.
That's right.
So you can expect everybody to think and feel the way you do. At the end of the day,
I hold people to the same standard as myself.
Okay,
yes, I do.
But everybody's not you. Okay.
Well.
Okay. So at the end of the day, like I said, we live in America, okay? And the one thing I know, I have a right to my opinion. Okay?
Yes.
And I have a right to voice my opinion any damn way I want to.
Yes.
Any way I want to, right?
Yes.
So if somebody makes a statement and I want to agree with it, it's not anybody else's right to therefore clown me and accuse me of things just because I agree with that person. Okay? And if I disagree with somebody, there's nobody else has the right to tell me that I should have to stand up and say I disagree with it. That's my right. Okay? So
who is suggesting that you don't have that right?
Okay, no, I'm just saying. But then you want to have an issue with people because they didn't stand up and disagree with those guys, but they agree with these people.
I have an issue with
all,
critical stance.
Nobody in their right mind is surprised at all that the football coaches back these young men. Nobody's surprised.
I have
because the football coaches want to play football.
I have an issue with hypocritical.
Just like you as a track coach want to run track. Yeah. So at the end of the day, so here's my thing. This is not just happening at the collegiate level. There's a couple of states that are playing high school football already. I think Iowa and I think Nebraska are a couple of them that are playing football already. There are football players from states who aren't being allowed to play football who have moved to these other states to play. Okay, that's how bad these kids want to play football, right?
Yep.
So let's stop this thing of okay, I get it. And everybody wants to make this a doom and gloom issue. I get it. There's a pandemic. I get it. It's killing people. I get that. Okay. But everything that's on the opposite side of what y'all believe is not doom and gloom and evil. It's not. Okay. It's just not. So this group of young people and anybody that backs them. So if we're going to stand up and be proud of the guys that said they don't want to play, we should have the same pride for the guys that say they do. Because they have the same voice and they have voiced it the same way.
Lamar.
So there's a point of, first of all, I came to play tonight. So let me get in my proper.
Then let's start playing.
Need to get aerodynamic. Let's be clear about something. This particular argument seems to be juxtaposing the two factions, and they are in no way juxtaposed. What is being missed is that last week's group never said they didn't want to play.
Exactly.
They said they would not play until they got certain things. So these two movements are not counterintuitive to each other at all.
I never said they were.
This is a point of clarification.
Put that on my plate because I never said they were.
It's a point of clarification for some of our.
Yeah, I'll clarify it for them because I'm very clear on.
Some of our less informed possible viewers. So given that statement and that understanding, I have no issue with it, but I do find it interesting since y'all have been on this topic. It's interesting that many of the adults are trying to paint the narrative that there's that there's not unity across the board amongst the student athletes, and I think that's the bigger thing that's at play. The adults aren't playing fair, right? That's my issue.
What does that mean?
Huh?
What does that mean?
What does that mean?
No. Guys over here doing this like.
That means bravo to Lamar.
The adults that are surrounding the situation are not playing fair. The kids are not on opposite sides of this coin at all. I think, Clyde, you are off base about Trevor Lawrence, but off camera, I've already told you that. So I'm not going to rehash that argument on camera. I'll just say you have your right to feel that way about that young man. And I will tell you, I know him a little and Dabo a lot. And so I'll just say I disagree with your personal thoughts about them. That's okay, right? We don't need to. That's okay for me and you to not. Conflict is not bad. It's part of progress. What really is an issue here is we need the adults in the room to play like adults. So I don't have an issue with the SEC and the ACC and the Big 12's decision currently to play, because based on their backing and their, everybody leans on somebody, right? So it's like at the end of the day, whoever they're leaning on is telling them, up to now, if they do these things, we are within safe protocols to play, right?
Absolutely.
We all would agree that the West Coast is the most litigious of all the places in the country. And so there was the greatest chance, because you've spit this narrative out many times about even Gavin Newsom, that like there was the greatest chance that there wasn't going to be football in the Pac-12. There was the greatest chance, right? And I think we all agree that, broad stroke, but the Big Ten is probably the most conservative of the Power Five. So again, nobody, like, this isn't an aha moment. I think it's funny that we have all always lumped the autonomous five together, when the truth is they're only together when they're counting money. They don't think the same, and they never have. And if we're going to be honest, they never will. So it should surprise no one if indeed it actually happens that there is football in the Southeast and the Southwest portion of this country, and there is no football anywhere else. It should surprise no one. Because if you really look at how the five conferences think on many things, that's about where they usually line up. So I'm more interested to see, now that there are some people making some decisions. Yes, I'm reeling it back to last week's conversation. I am now interested to see what the leadership, and if my fingers could be bigger, I'd make these quotes even bigger. The leadership that is Mark Emmert and those in that building, which is 1 hour south of me, what they are going to do to create some level of regulation. If only 3 conferences play football,
not hold your breath.
But that's my point, is that is what I think, again, is so funny. If the 3 conferences decide to play, who's going to stop them? Well, nobody. Because Mark Emmert's not going to make a decision to tell them not to play.
But Lamar, to that point, and I think I know that all of us understand this, but maybe the greater populace doesn't. When it comes to the issue of Power 5 football, the NCAA doesn't really have any power over them anyway.
I know that. You know that.
Right.
So realistically, what the NCAA has power over is the NCAA championships.
Right, but there aren't any in Power 5 football, Division I.
What's that? So we're not going to go there. So we're not. You see, you try to pull me in there every week, and I'm not going there.
No, I'm serious. I'm very serious.
So the NCAA as a whole has power over the NCAA championships. They don't have power over the conference championships.
That is correct.
Power over that stuff. So if the SEC or the Big Ten or whoever else decides we're going to play a conference schedule and have a conference championship, that's their decision. So it has nothing to do with the NCAA, because they have no power for that.
But Lucius, are you suggesting? And I'm being serious. Are you, when the Division II football championships happen, we watch them on TV. Those that are interested, and there's an NCAA logo, and the trophy that goes home to the championship team looks the exact same way that the track and field trophy looks. It's the NCAA championship. Last I checked, the NCAA doesn't regulate the BCS or the playoff or the whatever. The NCAA doesn't regulate any of that.
I'm going to say this again. I'm not discussing that with you.
Okay, so
that's not the issue. The issue here has nothing to do with BCS football. Okay, we're talking about the NCAA regulating conference play. It has nothing to do with BCS football. Okay?
Well, I didn't think.
And to Lamar's point,
I didn't think Lamar was making that point. I didn't think Lamar.
His point is that the NCAA can't step in and do anything about it because they have no power to regulation. So I don't know why we're talking about BCS championships. There's nothing to do with it.
Because Lamar.
So let me just say this, okay? So because I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole, because I could give a crap about the BCS versus Division II football. That has nothing to do with this. Okay, here's the bottom line. Okay, football players want to play. Football coaches want to coach. And you're going to have so even the people that we are united, those guys want to play as well, right? So if we're talking about the topic of we want to play, there's no surprise there. We have all been around football players. And we've all been around the pretender football players, the guys that just want to be on the team. But the real live guy that wants to get in the trenches and knock people's heads off, that's what he wants to do. So they want to line up and play. Just like we want to line up and run track and run cross country and play volleyball and all that stuff. That's what they want to do. So nobody's surprised that that's what they said. But see, so my thing to you and anybody else who wants to hear this is this, okay? Stop it with the doom and gloom rhetoric, okay? Look, is there a risk to playing football? Absolutely there is, okay? But let's see how this all plays out before we freaking make the world come to it.
Okay.
Let's stop calling people pawns. Let's stop calling people cheerleaders. Let's respect the people for who they are. They're football players, so they want to.
You have totally misunderstood what I was saying, and that's fine because it seems to be a very emotional issue for a lot of people.
Not emotional for me at all. I'm just spitting facts, bro.
Wait a minute. Here are the facts. All athletes want to play. I don't care what.
I've been saying that for the last 10 minutes.
Right. So again, to Lucius's point, nobody.
I'm Lucius.
I'm sorry, to Lamar's point, nobody said last week, the whole premise of We Are United, the players literally said in their charter statement, we want to play. It was one of the first things.
And didn't I just say that 2 minutes ago?
Sir, can I finish? Can I finish?
Sure. Make a point.
So here are the facts. The facts are that I told you and a whole bunch of other people was 18 weeks ago that at the end of the day, the football thing wasn't going to happen because you cannot make it feasible under medical reasons. And the idea that there are medical professionals in the Southeast or Southwest that somehow have different medical facts than they have on the West Coast or the Midwest doesn't make any sense. At the end of the day, suspending the football season to January, all that is buying time for the hope of more information later. The fact of the matter is the realization that everybody should be coming to is there ain't going to be no NCAA football this year. It isn't going to happen because it's not medically.
And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen.
But that's the thing. You and other people want to say doom and gloom. It's not doom and gloom. It's just reading the facts.
Okay, see, but here's the thing. They're your facts.
No, that's the thing about facts.
Hold on a second.
That's the thing about facts. They're not yours
because I can go out and
get 10
different medical journals, and they all say something different, Chuck. Every freaking one of them. Because you read it and you believe it, that makes it fact. So look, go back to the bottom of life. You said that they will not play college football.
I did.
18 weeks ago. So, if they don't play college football, I'll be the first person to tell you that you're right.
They're already not playing.
But no, hold on a second. But
they're already not playing.
Okay, so if it makes you feel better, Chuck, you were right, man.
It has nothing to do with me being acknowledged.
But look, you made a point to say 18 weeks ago I said this was going to happen.
Right, and
you made that point. So that's how you feel. That's how you feel. But at the end of the day, this is not what this is about.
All right, I'm gonna stop. Let me know what you're doing.
We're supposed to be talking about we want to play. And you're talking about
something I'm trying to talk about.
You said 18 weeks ago. Okay?
What did I say about we want to play? We want to play is not relevant. We want to play is an irrelevant.
That's the topic.
And I'm trying to tell you, the statement, the hashtag, the movement of we want to play is not relevant because in anybody's opinion, because no one cares about.
It's relevant to me.
My God, sir. Do you want me to stop talking so you can finish, or can I finish?
No, you've been interrupting me all night, dog. Every time I start talking, you interrupt me. But now you want me to, I'll let you talk. Go ahead. But the bottom line is this. You can't say it's not relevant to anybody because I'm somebody. Okay? So when you say shit like that, I'm going to interrupt you because you're wrong. If you don't want to be interrupted, then don't say shit that's irrelevant because that's irrelevant. You can't, because your opinion is not everybody else's opinion. Because you think we shouldn't play football, because your medical experts say something, then fine. But the medical experts that we talk to say that if it's done right, it can be done. Okay? So then what we'll do is we'll wait and see.
Can I speak now? All right. So again, hear what I'm saying to you. I'm not saying that we want to play is irrelevant because I think it's irrelevant. What I'm saying, the thing that I said in the first thing that I opening said you didn't quite hear, no one cares about the opinions of these kids. They never do. If the opinions of the kids mattered, they would have been paid athletes by now. If the opinions of the kids mattered, then the We Are United stance would have been taken immediately serious, and they would have been sitting down at the negotiating table, and they would have been doing all those things. My point is, to Lamar's point, the adults aren't playing fair. They want to act as if they care about the kid's opinion when it's convenient. It's a political issue. So when Trevor Lawrence, and I only used him because he's the most visible player that spoke, he's bigger than Justin Fields. Sorry, he is. When he steps out with the "we want to play," people, rightfully so, pay more attention because he's Trevor Lawrence. What I'm saying is that Trevor Lawrence's opinion isn't relevant to anyone making the decisions. They use that opinion to trumpet the speech that they want that's on their side of the argument. That's the point. That's the only point. I'm not saying that Trevor Lawrence's opinion is irrelevant in the sense of he as a human is irrelevant. He wants to play. I want to coach. You want to coach. But the kids' opinions are not relevant to the people who are ultimately making these decisions until they're convenient to be used as pawns in the argument that they want. In down south, they want to grab the Trevor Lawrence opinion and say, look, guys, our kids really, really want to play. Aren't you concerned with the welfare and the mental aspect and the desire of the kids? And on the West Coast or in the Pac-12, in the Pac-10, they say no, because we're listening to the medical experts. We're not worried about what the kids want. We're worried about public health. That's the issue. And at the end of the day, you can only hold off the public health debate for so long. And if they want to hold it off for 3 more weeks or 4 more weeks, that's cool. If they want to hold it off till September 26th and start playing games, that's cool. But at the end of the day, the medical facts don't care about your opinion, my opinion, or anybody else's. It's not blue and red. It's not white and black. It's not Republican and Democrat. The virus is a virus. The virus don't care about none of this. The virus doesn't care.
And at the end of the day, guess what? Right? Okay. At the end of the day, the football coaches that stood up and said they want to play are the same ones that have been saying it the whole time. They didn't jump on the bandwagon because Trevor Lawrence said it. Okay. So I don't understand. Look, I'm not doing this with you. Okay. I tell you, look, that's who you are, and that's what you want to believe. If you want to think that the adults aren't playing fair, Lamar, you want to think that they're using Trevor Lawrence as a pawn, I simply disagree. Okay? Because Ryan Day was saying this last week. Scott Frost has been saying it for 3 weeks. There's been a lot of NCAA coaches who say they want to play. There's a coach on my campus that wants to play. So now because the athletes say it and they back the athletes, now they're using the athletes as pawns. I just simply disagree. And like I said, just because you read some medical journal that says this is what the facts are, like we know, like medicine, like anything else in this world, there's a lot of different opinions, okay? So what we're going to do, what I'm going to do anyway, is I'm going to sit back, and when my boss tells me what we're doing, I'm going to do it. And for you people out there that want to believe that we're using athletes, we don't care about athletes' health, that's a bunch of bull, and it's not true.
I didn't say that.
Not true. I didn't say you did. It's not true. Because there's lots of safety protocols. They're trying to do the best they can to keep everybody safe. And the moment that anybody around here anyway sees that you can't play safely, I promise you it'll stop. I promise you it'll stop.
I just want to say, I think it's very interesting. And then we probably should move on to our next topic.
Yeah, we probably should.
I do think it's interesting that there are NFL teams in the same places as all of these colleges, and they have access to the same doctors in all of these places, and yet the Niners are going to play and the Seahawks are going to play.
Please throw your hands up, Clyde.
And
that's right. But he also knows the difference between the two. And I hope he's going to make that point because he'd be disingenuous not to.
All I said was I find it interesting I'm not making any grand sweeping like accusations one way or the other. Yes, I am completely well aware of the difference between adults over the age of 21 who get paid millions of dollars and who work for $1 billion industry. And basically when you sign a waiver to play NFL, it is what it is. Yes, I do understand the difference. But like I said, I do still find it interesting that the same medical professionals are without question being consulted by the Pac-12, as well as the Western portion of the NFL, by the Big Ten, as well as the Midwestern portion of the NFL. So I want to wrap this up in a bow and then hand it back to Chu and say, to Lucius's point, there are without question protocols being put in place everywhere around there, but how these differing conference governing bodies choose to use, manipulate, whatever word you want to stick in there, choose to correspond with these protocols is what is always going to be different from conference to conference. And it is why, and I know I keep beating this horse, but it is why the NCAA, in theory, should have leadership to paint the same picture all the way across, because you cannot let the conferences make these decisions because they're not going to see things the same way.
Exactly. It's too
So
late.
my only point has always been is that the lack of leadership dissolves into what we got.
We all agree with you on that.
Well, there you go. Now I need you two to like shake hands and come back out fighting.
I love him, regardless.
We know we love each other. We're all good.
He's a little full of it sometimes, but he's good.
So, all right, let's subject kind of the same. Let's talk about COVID and the effects on another population. The population of those who are coming into the NCAA, NAIA, NJCCA, CCCA, AA, however many letters you want to call it. All these kids are coming in, you know, and the coaches who are affected by it as well. How is COVID affecting recruiting, specifically the 2021 class?
Can I go first?
Please.
I appreciate it, gentlemen. I appreciate it. I think the funny part about the 2021 class is the more sophisticated the system around you is, the less your recruiting is affected negatively. Meaning, if you were already part of the video and like the heavy use of video and the heavy use of multiple my brain's not working. Multiple platforms like Instagram and Twitter, and probably not Facebook so much, but Facebook to some degree. If you were already kind of part of that movement, your recruiting probably hasn't been affected that greatly, because almost every school has moved with alacrity towards video recruitment, right? It's like, okay, I can't go to a track meet. How many different ways can I see this kid run, jump, throw, whatever it is on video? But the kids who are more diamond in the roughish, who you definitely got to see them, like, you know, the kid might be a girl who's 11'9" girl, but you go and see her, you're like, she's 11'2" all day if she gets on this campus and lifts a weight. Like, those kids, their recruitment is being, I don't know, imploded, railroaded, many of those things. Coaches have a hard time just trusting word of mouth. So, like, even as somebody you trust, like if I tell a coach, look, this girl's really, really good, the coaches who will listen, I mean, they would have listened to me no matter what. But, you know, the average coach who wouldn't necessarily trust me or trust someone like me, they're not going to recruit that kid. So I think that the 2021 kids recruitment is going to be affected heavily, but kind of unevenly. I think in some cases, almost not at all. In some cases, probably tremendously. I think if you look at it, the enrollments in junior college for the 2020, 2021, and probably the last trickle-down group, the 2022 class, is probably going to be much greater than it normally is in a 2 or 3 year span, just because there's going to be more kids who were not seen, who didn't go to showcases that didn't exist, and who needed their senior year to be heavily recruited. Look, the kids who were good through, as juniors, they were always going to be recruited. But the kids who needed that senior year to get recruited, some of them are going to probably end up at junior college for a year or whatever. But I mean, at the end of the day, that's kind of how it is, my opinion.
I think the reality of the recruiting for the class of 2021 specifically is going to be much like the situation that's playing out in the rest of the country currently. The rich are going to get richer. And why I say that is because there's this pocket in recruiting where, everybody knows who the major power players are, in our sport, right? And most kids, their dream school is already one of those on that list anyway. The good recruiters, and those schools have phenomenal recruiters, but the good recruiters who don't work in those places, every now and then they can pluck off a kid. You get them on your campus, you build a relationship, you do those things. But getting them on your campus or getting in their face, getting in their home is paramount to that. And since those tools are currently taken away because of COVID, and honestly, I don't really see those tools coming back. I don't see any world that exists where we're going to be able to do on-campus visits this fall. I don't see how anyone's going to be allowed to do that. I don't see how the NCAA, back to the leadership thing, is going to allow that to happen. Maybe the state of Texas says, we're cool with it. You can't let the state of Texas do it and California not do it and Florida do it, but Georgia not do it. It has to be across the board. So because of that reality, I think the top programs are going to get even more recruits than they already would otherwise, because kids are going to be less scared they're going to be more scared to take a chance on the unknown. They're going to be more inclined to be like, you know what? That sounds good, coach, and we're cool via Zoom and everything, but at the end of the day, I know I'm going to be good if I go to school X. I'm just going to do that. So I think on the school side, I think the rich get richer through the fallout of recruiting in the pandemic. On the athlete side, I feel really bad for the classes of 2021 because I think it's worse for them than it's been for 2020, because the 2020 recruits did get to have their junior season. And if you were good, you already popped out. It's the current juniors who didn't get their season. It's the current breakthrough between that age of 15 and 16 that everybody usually sees that didn't get to have their display, that didn't get to go to their state championship. So to Lamar's point, it is harder to spot those kids. It is harder to get eyes on those kids. And it's also an opportunity, and the better recruiters at any level are going to ultimately shine through, but it's a much tougher deal for the class of 2021. And ultimately, I feel bad for those kids and their coaches and their parents because it's tough.
I'm going to disagree with you about the rich get richer thing, because the better kids in the country that I think you're speaking of, most of them are going to go to those schools anyway, whether there was a COVID or not. I think what will happen is that I think it'll happen the other way. There's some of the kids, the diamond in the roughs, that won't get offered by the bigger schools will get offered by the smaller schools because they don't have the marks that they would have got if they got their junior year. So I think I think it's going to happen in the other direction. The other thing is too, because of the number of junior athletes that were affected by COVID at the collegiate level, so a lot of schools are going to bring those juniors back. So then the pot of money that's available to sign those kids is going to be lesser. So then therefore that again will make it easier for the smaller schools, the mid-majors. This could be a bumper crop for them if they do it the right way, because the money's going to be, I know of schools that aren't recruiting at all this year. They're not recruiting 2021s at all. They're just bringing their whole junior, the rising senior class, they're just bringing them all back for another year. So I think that what you're going to see is if the the mid-majors and the smaller divisions really get after it and they do their homework, like Lamar said, the 11-9 girl that would have run 11-4 as a junior and never got a chance to, they got a much better chance of getting them because the better schools that you speak of aren't even giving her a call.
I will say something to rebuke Clyde's point about you can't let Texas do something and California not. Let me inform you and the rest of the world of something that maybe not everybody knows. That's been happening all summer. Like there are states that have had on-campus visits this summer in legal and illegal ways because the state says you can, and there are other states that clearly that's not been allowed. But here's the part that kills me. And I know this horse is dead and I keep beating it. But see here, somebody explain this to me. This is when I keep talking about leadership, somebody explain this to me. We all know that there is a ban on campus or off campus recruiting at the Division I level through August 31st, right?
Yep.
We all know that there's that same ban at the Division II level, right?
Yep.
Do you know there's never been a ban at Division III? Do you know that there's never been a ban at JUCO? So I just want you to understand something. In the same state, like the University of Illinois can't go recruit, but the 38 junior colleges in Illinois have been recruiting since June. So this whole idea of you can't let, but you can't, like that's what I've been clamoring for from the beginning, because that is leadership. But what I'm telling you is, because there is none, it's been wild, wild west. And if you are a Division I coach who is in good with the right number or the right junior college coaches, you got a de facto recruiting coordinator who went to JO or AAUs that just happened.
Sure, but
right?
Absolutely.
I mean, just saying, right?
No, absolutely. But here's the issue: the NCAA doesn't regulate the JUCO system.
But they regulate Division III.
Sure, and Division III doesn't have scholarships. So I don't really believe there's any scenario where a Division I worthy athlete is going to end up at Division III because the Division III coach was able to go out recruiting.
No, you're missing what I'm saying. Okay, whatever reasoning you had for not letting Division I coaches go recruit, how does that reasoning not exist for Division III?
Oh, it absolutely should exist for Division III, 100%.
That's what I'm talking about.
100%. But what I'm talking about is we've been on a quote unquote dead period forever, and they just keep extending the dead period every 30 days, every 15 days. I do not see any scenario where the class of 2021 is going to be able to visit in person legally the University of Florida's campus this fall.
Hey, just put them off my campus. Put them off somebody else's campus.
Now, if Chu is working at Penn State and finds some backdoor way to bring people to Happy Valley, unbeknownst to the rest of us, I mean, that's cool. She could take that risk, but that risk is the ultimate violation and would be ridiculous to even consider doing. So it's really, really bad.
So you say that it would be ridiculous, but let me tell you what's actually going on. Okay?
Oh, I'm sure.
No, because I want to tell the truth. Kids need to go to school. Do we agree? Look, kids need to get recruited.
Yes.
And if the obstacle to being recruited is I can't be on campus, okay, well me and my parents, we're gonna figure that out, right?
Okay.
So this is what happens. Kid X gets in the car with mom and dad. Yeah. And they are gonna go see the schools in the Pac-12 that they have been getting email and FaceTime love from.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So I need to be able to see the facilities. Well, okay, obviously the weight room and such and everything indoors, that's locked up. But if I can go in one car and I can see if I really want to be crazy, I can see UW all the way down through Oregon, Cal, Stanford, UCLA, and USC's track and field program, right? I could see them all, see all their facilities, and there's nothing. Look, there's restaurants that are open to all these places, right? So, I mean, this is a long journey. So me and my mom and dad, we have to eat, right? I'm in communication with the coaches that are at these schools, and I just happen to let them know where I'm going to eat.
And so
well, if they actually happen to end up in the same place.
What I'm telling you is what the scenario I just gave you is, and will continue to happen. Okay, and that's fine. And what I'm telling you is that exact scenario is a major violation. And
it is 0% a violation.
Oh, you are incorrect, sir.
How is it a violation?
I'm telling you, you are absolutely incorrect.
It is only a violation if you agree to meet those people. I'm not suggesting anybody does this. Let's be clear. I don't want anybody to break rules. I never did it, and I don't want anybody to do it. I'm just telling you what is going on.
And I'm not disagreeing with you that there are sinister people in our business that will absolutely participate in nonsense like that. And I'm telling you that it's a huge risk to your profession and a huge risk to the athlete's eligibility. And I'm going to tell you straight up, I had a parent ask me recently if that could be happening. And I said, absolutely not. If you bring yourself to the Bay Area on a plane with people, that is your right to do so. But under no circumstances can I meet with you in any way. And I don't even want to know when you're coming. I want nothing to do with that. It's your right to travel where you're going to travel. But you can't do stuff like that. It's absolutely against the rules. It doesn't mean people won't do it, but you can't do stuff like that.
So here's the problem. It's not against the rules. It's against a proper moral code. I agree with you. I wouldn't do it. You shouldn't do it. I wouldn't suggest anybody on this panel do it. But what I'm telling you is, it is happening.
Sure. And that's
the
only caveat that I'll give to you on that point, because it is an interesting point. There's a lot of kids that all of us would like to have on our teams whose parents absolutely could never afford to do any kind of road trips like that. And it's those kids who are really, really, really getting screwed over by this whole COVID situation. Because if you live in a 2-parent household and both your parents got jobs, they can probably put you on a plane by yourself and fly you all over to get your views of schools in. But those inner city kids who can't leave the neighborhood and only can get in contact with their coaches when coaches can come do their home visit or put them on a plane to come see a campus, those kids are going to get a shorter end of the recruiting stick. And that's just the nature of the
game. I don't disagree with you at all.
And I'm going to tell you this. If said kid is one of the top kids in the country, they'll be fine.
Of course, but we're not talking about the top kids in the country. We're
just, okay, look, inner city kids are top kids in the country too, right? Okay.
Of course they are, sir, but we're not. The elite kids in the 2021 class, we already all know their names. They already got their offers.
I spoke to that point already. You know, right. If they're not one of the elites, nobody's calling them. Even if you could recruit right now, there's nobody from the elite schools that's calling the girl to ring 11-9. If her dad's a millionaire, they're not calling.
Right.
But so that's
okay. But so I'll disagree only on this point. I think ostensibly you are correct, Lucius, but you know, and this is the reason. What do you call me? What is your nickname for me?
The Mole.
Okay. And why do you call me that? Because I'm the guy that will go to enough track meets to see that girl who was playing volleyball for 3 years, who just came out for track, and she lives in Michigan, and she ran 11:95.
Push the pause button for 1 second. You're the guy that would do what?
Yes, go see.
Okay, but you can't go see him.
Exactly.
I can't.
End of discussion.
I agree. But here's the thing.
So even the mole has problems in this situation.
No,
COVID
for
even shuts
sure.
the mole.
The mole has huge problems in this scenario because that's where I would make my money. I would always go places, extra places, recruit places that nobody else recruits.
Right.
But what I hope people are figuring out is like, look, it's the new normal, folks. Like, figure out how to get your kids recruited. Like, that's what I want to see, because look, the 2021 class is being affected, but it's only being affected in such that, like, you got to change the narrative. You have to figure out how to get your kid in front of the right.
In a way that won't get you fired.
Let's stop that. Let's take that off the board. I don't even know why you brought that crap up. Okay. Exactly, but even he knows better than that. So at the end of the day, here's the issue you have. You have been a head coach in an Autonomy 5 school. There's no way, I don't care how good of a friend or a trust factor you have with anybody, they're calling you saying, I have this girl who's run 11.9. I promise you she's going to run 11.3, and you're going to give her a full scholarship. Not happening.
If you called me and told me that, absolutely I would. And you know that. If you call, let's just call a spade a spade. If you called me and told me that
we're going to take you and I off the table here, because we're not talking about you and I. Don't try to change the narrative so that you can be right.
I'm not changing.
At the end of the day, that's not happening, sir. It's just not. It's just not.
Look, we all know Brandon. We all know Brandon in Michigan, right? If Brandon called me and told me he's got a newbie who's run 11.9, but she's gonna run 11.3, especially when I first got to Cal, when we were terrible. I'm not gonna say anything. You're the current state affairs of Cal, but
you're going around the block
where you got to take some chances. Yeah, you would.
Look, okay, he likes his job. He's not taking a chance on it. And first of all, if his boss ain't let him sign 11.9, okay?
I hope not.
My staff knows better. So at the end of the day, the smaller schools, this could be a great class for them. Like the better kids in the country, like my man Clyde said, we all know who they are.
Yeah, they're gone.
And we know what their potential is, and it's going to be a big time grab for those people. But remember, like I said, a lot of schools are just going to pass on the junior class and just bring their people back because they feel like, hey, we're good. I'll just skip a class and we'll figure it out.
The
I agree with that.
The rollover of the junior class. I mean, everyone's doing that. To my knowledge, everyone's doing that except the Big 12, except the Big 10. The Big 10 is the only conference that said, no, we're not doing the rollover stuff. But
no, I'm not talking about the rollover. I'm talking about, okay, like if you have someone that was a junior last year, you can bring them back for their 5th year. Now they count against you.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the rollover for this coming year.
Right.
I'm talking about the following year. I'm not talking about 21. I'm talking about 22.
Got it.
That's because that's when the 21 class would be freshmen. So that's why they're going to be affected. Because the 21 college seniors are going to be brought back for a redshirt year in 22, which now affects the high school class of 21 because the freshman money is not going to be. It's going to be a lot of money. It's not going to be there.
Right. So the original point that I was trying to make that Lucius, you disagreed with, and you might very well be right. I like the way that you presented your argument there. What I'm saying is, and I will use your program as a classic example of this. Let's say that there's a kid from the state of Florida who runs, I don't know, let's say it's a female 100-meter runner that runs 11.7 or 11.9. And I say from the state of Florida because in-state versus out-of-state would matter in this situation. So that girl is, in my opinion, today, more likely to look at the landscape, not being able to come on campus, not being able to be truly recruited in the traditional way and be like, you know what? I'm going to take my 11.9 and I'm going to bet that the University of Florida is going to get me where I need to go. I'm not going to take the bigger offer from a Central Florida. I'm going to bet on walking on to this program. I'm going to bet on taking books from this program because I'm going to bet on the label rightfully earned that's a top 5 program in this country. I think those kids, the second tiers, are going to choose, if they can afford to to take really short money or no money at all to go with the brand names than they are to take a chance on the coaches and the programs that'll throw them money because they can afford to right now. I think that's more inclined to happen with the 2021s. I could be totally wrong. I hope I am.
I'm going to respectfully disagree with you because we deal with that already. I mean, they're going to take the bigger money. There's always a money grab. Always a money grab. I mean, we've had athletes turn us down to take more money to go out of state because their offer was bigger, but they had to pay more money to go to the out of state school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It makes no sense to me.
That's what I call the ego.
And then a year later, you get the call like, like, can we come back? Like, we didn't realize. Like, hey, I tried to tell you. Yeah, their offer was bigger, but it had to be. But you're still paying more money to go to school there because, like trust me, the dollar sign at the end of the day, it means a lot. So, what might there be a couple of guys or girls that might do that, but the majority of them are going to go with the bigger offer.
A recruiting arithmetic always baffles me from the parents and their children.
Yeah.
See, I'll put it like this. My wife has a cousin that always says this. Everybody's not good at public math.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
I might steal that one.
Well done.
Have you heard? Everybody's not good at public math.
Lucius out here saving lives. Good stuff.
Let's parlay that comment or that notion of recruiting into the next one.
Okay.
So we're talking about recruiting and the ability to and who's going to get recruited and knowing where your strength is. So at college coaching level, which ability has greater value? The ability to develop an athlete or the ability to recruit the athlete?
I think development is the biggest asset ever. Because, I mean, as my man Clyde just talked about, sometimes your program just sells itself, right? So, and everybody's after the big one. But sometimes you got to find the diamond in the rough. You got to find the middle level. And even when you sign the big time kid, you don't want to just sign them and have them come to your campus and stay the same. And that happens in some instances. Like some people, you sign a girl or a girl that runs 11-2 in high school, and she comes to their campus and runs 11-2, she's going to be in the NCAA final instead, right? So the key is even when you sign the big time guy or girl to have the ability to develop, to have the ability to coach them, because being a great recruiter who's going to bring the kid on campus and make them worse is not very good. So I think that obviously, yeah, you have to be able to recruit, but the development side of it, the ability to get them to another level is much more important to me.
That's a hell of a question, first of all. What I've found, I agree with Lucius. I think development of athletes is first and foremost. And for me, you're not a real coach if you can't develop the skills of your athletes. Now, having said that, I think there's kind of three levels to this at the collegiate level. I think there are dynamic recruiters that can't develop anything athletically. I think that there are phenomenal coaches that can't recruit at all. And the greats in our profession can do both, but there's very few that can do both. And those very few that can do both, you recognize them in the business. You see their accolades on display. You see their kids doing what they do. And so, I think that's a lost art. I think that the way the business is, I think a lot of people get into this and try to, pinpoint themselves as being dynamic recruiters, because we all know if you get the unicorn on your campus, you're going to look good for a certain period of time, no matter what. And that's true. But the harder part, the realer part, is to take the kid and develop their skill set. And if the girl comes in running 11-2 or the girl comes in running 12-2, there is skill set there to be developed and to be nourished and to be a talent to be, enriched. And if you can't handle that, you're ultimately going to get exposed as a coach, let alone a recruiter. But there's a lot of value in our business being a great recruiter. So, for the athletes, I think you better find a place that can develop your talent. But in the profession, you can go a hell of a long way and work and get a lot of money and a lot of big checks and work at a lot of pretty labels if all you could do is recruit. So I don't know which one has more value in the profession, because they both do. But for me, you're not a real coach if you can't do both.
So I want to be real specific here. Chu, will you read the question one more time?
Which is more important to be successful at with college coaching? The ability to develop the athlete or the ability to recruit the athlete?
Okay, good. I just want to make sure I got it right. So I'm going to say, to me, as a person, I agree with both of you. I think that you're not a real coach unless you can develop kids. Like, if a kid comes to you at level 8 and you can't make them level 9, you're not very good. If a kid comes to you at level 2 and you can't make them level 4, you're not very good. So I think that quintessentially, you need to be able to develop talent. But if I answer the question specifically, which is more important? So meaning, if you can only have one of those two skills, unfortunately, and I think this speaks to like our profession, if I could only be one of those two things and I had to feed my family as a coach, I would definitely pick being a recruiter. And I say that because if I can go recruit talent, I have value to every staff. But if I can't recruit talent, but everybody you bring me, I can make better, well, shit, somebody's got to do part of my job for me. And that's it. Look, I don't want to say that because that's disrespectful. I'll just say, well, because it was going to be personal, so I'm not going to say that. I personally think I have a greater respect for those who can develop talent, and I agree completely with Clyde's assessment. Look, I think there's good coaches that recruit and good coaches that can develop, but the great coaches can do both. And you can't be great if you can't do both. Personally, that's what I believe. But if I had to pick a skill, meaning I have one and don't have the other, and I want to be a track coach in this country, unfortunately, I would definitely pick being a recruiter. I'm not going to name any names. Everybody on this panel knows someone who made a career as a recruiter who never proved to be able to develop. Did I say that right? I don't want to be mean, right? But I'll say this. Fewer and further between are the ones that we know who can really develop but can't recruit. And I know one of those. But the issue with that is their ability to be special is incredibly myopic because someone has to give them the talent to develop because they can't go get it on their campus themselves. And so, not to be contrary, but I think in the specificity of the question, if I had to pick which one was more important, it's probably recruiting, which I think is a sad state of affairs because at the end of the day, I think it's more important to be a developer if you're really going to be a steward of the actual job, right? Is making young people's lives better. But if you're trying to get paid and you got a family to feed and all those things, you better be able to recruit.
So I'm gonna.
At the end of the day, like you're only as good as your recruiting anyway. No matter how good a coach you are, I'm a much better coach the better talent I have. It's just that simple. So you have to be able to recruit, and I think that we all agree with that. At the end of the day, being a recruiter who can't coach or develop is not going to lead to success. It's not.
So I'm going to ask a question to the three of you because you all at one time have held a head coach position and have had to hire assistants and whatnot. And this is the question that I know comes up a lot for those wanting to be assistants somewhere else. The hiring factor. What's the hiring factor? How do I get that job? I mean, are you saying that you need to be the better recruiter rather than the better developer to get hired?
No, not for me. I mean, for me, because of our level of success, I don't think recruiting is an issue for us. But if you can't coach, that's a bigger issue. If you can't develop, that's a bigger issue. I think that, like anything else in life, success allows you certain things. And so if you have a pedigree that says you can do certain things, then the better athletes are going to be attracted to your institution. So the recruiting part of it happens for me. I think recruiting gets better when your development curve gets better. So hiring a coach that can recruit but can't develop will lead to your recruiting going south. Well, versus hiring somebody that can develop will lead to the recruiting going to the north.
And maybe that's part of what makes Lucius the king that he is, sitting in the throne. Because honestly, I don't think a lot of people at the top levels of our profession see it that way. I think people are more inclined, to Lamar's point, to hire a recruiter. Now, for me, when I was a head coach, I was a head coach at the Division II level. So to me, it was all about development, because we were never going to get, by and large, like it wasn't going to be. I never once did any interview with any person and worried about how good of a recruiter they were going to be. But that's because I was working at the level that I was working at. And where I saw it is, I'm the main recruiter. I'm the one that's going to get out there and go get these kids. So I need people around me that can help me develop the talent that we have and make my job easier, blah, blah, whatever. But yeah, I've seen a lot of examples where I've done a lot of interviews at upper echelon positions in this job, and recruiting is a huge part of those interviews. It's a huge part of why people do or do not get hired for jobs. Here, to crystallize this ultimate point for me, and I want to be clear to the audience, it was a different staff than the current staff that I'm going to use as an example. None of the people currently working at this school worked at the school during this time. Sonia Richards ran 50 point in high school and set the high school national record. She went to Texas. She never ran faster than 50 point as a collegiate at Texas, but they did a whole lot of winning during her tenure. She led a lot of teams to national titles. She won national titles. But as a 400-meter runner, she ain't get any better. So in that example, the recruitment of Sonia Richards led to multiple national titles for Texas. Doesn't matter that she didn't get any faster, right? I'm sure it mattered to Sonia. I'm sure it mattered to her people. But during that time, she did not run a step faster in the 400 meters. So is that good? Is that bad? It all depends on where you're sitting. It all depends on your perspective. The rings came, the bonus checks came, right? The recruits came behind her because they were like, oh my God, Sonia's at that school and look what they're doing. She's the national champ. But she didn't get any better. So I think it really depends on where you sit, what seat you're in, what role you play. I think it's a case-by-case situation.
If I'm going to give an honest answer to that, too, I'm going to say, for me, it was always really simple. What can I teach you to do, and what can I teach you to do? I've had both, and I will tell you, I would much rather take somebody who can develop and coach and teach them how to recruit than somebody who can recruit and I got to teach them how to coach. I've had to do both, and I will tell you, that's really hard.
I agree with that. It's easier to teach people how to be a good recruiter. I agree with you on that.
So I will take a good person who I can trust, who can coach, and I know that I feel like I feel comfortable with their knowledge base and their ability to be good stewards over the young people that I put in their lives, and then teach them some of the nuances and things about recruiting that I've learned over the years that I've managed to be good at. I definitely would do that over the other way. Now, I will say this. If I was at an elite Power 5 situation, I might actually hire somebody just to recruit if I had the ability on my staff. So if I could basically do it with 5 coaches and I had another spot, I might hire someone just to recruit. Now, I never did that, and I was never in that scenario, but I can at least see that play working. But that's a really, really myopic situation that 99% of the schools out there don't have. But to answer your question directly, I definitely think that the ability to develop and teach and coach is a greater skill to have than the recruiting piece, because recruitment is learned. Because even if you've been a great recruiter, you got to learn how to recruit great someplace, right? Like I'll make up a story. If you've been a really good recruiter at lower levels or mid levels of schools, right? And Lucius taps you on the shoulder and says, come hither, my son, my daughter, you are going to now be blessed with the gator, on your chest, right? Here's the thing. You have a whole different, like, now you're not shopping at the regular grocery store, right? Now you have to shop at the fancy grocery, at the Harris Teeter in the special cheese aisle. Does that make sense? Like, you're no longer trying to figure out which 10-6 kid is gonna become a 10-3 kid. You're trying to figure out which 10-3 kid or 10-4 kid you're gonna pick. It's a different skill. Like, I'm messing with Lucius, but I'm being serious. Like, recruiting at different levels is different, and recruiting in different areas of the country is different. So even being a skilled recruiter, you still have to learn how to be a skilled recruiter at the place you're going. Because I can tell you this, being a great recruiter on either coast has no bearing over being a great recruiter in the Midwest. Good luck with that.
Now, Lucius, did Lamar, and I agree with everything he just said, bravo, sir. But did he just change his own mind from his original point? Did he just walk himself into, it's actually not the recruiter, it's the development of coach that's more important at the NCAA level? Because it sounds like he changed on it.
No, not at all. She asked me personally.
Oh, okay.
She asked me personally. And I said when I gave the answer, personally, I differ from this. But look, the industry is not necessarily how I think or how any of us think. Look, there's a bunch of people out there who got jobs because they can recruit, who can't coach a bag to be brown and empty. I said it. I didn't say no names, but I'm saying there's a bunch of people out there who got jobs who make a lot of money who can't coach, but they can recruit, and therefore they're successful.
Fair enough.
Got it. Well, I wanted to give that clarifying piece because I know that is a notion that's always wondered about. So, wrapping up this, we kind of have a theme going on. So let's wrap this theme up. When you were just born in the wrong year at the wrong time. So that sounds really bad. And this is how I'm going to qualify it. Born at a time where everyone's great and everyone's doing superfluous things, or you get born as a junior this year, whether it be collegiate or high school. And here we are, left with all the way around. What do we think about this? How do we talk about this? How do you qualify some of these lesser, not lesser at all people?
Well, I think the issue Lamar and I've had this discussion forever about people just have bad birthdays and they just come along at the wrong time.
Bad.
Like my guy, the one I'm gonna talk about first is a guy that, this guy, when he left college, he was the number 2 all-time runner in the 400 hurdles of the NCAA level. Second fastest time in history. Never won a conference or an NCAA title. Never. He had the misfortune of having to deal with first Ricky Harris and then Karan Clement. He was an NCAA champion in football, one of the best relay runners you ever met. Then in Brazil, he just came along at the wrong time.
Can't believe that.
Yeah. 47-6, and he never won a conference or NCAA championship. He's the number 3 all-time hurdler behind Rye and everybody else. So that's the first one I'm going to put out there for you.
On the men's side, that was the only answer that seemed relevant to the question to me. If we're talking collegiate level,
any level, it has to be collegiate.
I went collegiate level. Benny Brazil is the poster boy for that at the collegiate level, and it's not like it's his fault. It's not like he was bad. He was amazing. Right. So
he was clearly very amazing. Yeah.
There's in the field events, unfortunately, that this seems to happen more frequently. Reggie Jones, Festus Iguodugeni, Both these dudes jumped 56 plus and 27 feet in college and never won anything because they went to school at the same time as Eric Walder and Kareem Street Thompson. Deion Bentley was the national high school record holder. And does he have an SEC title, Lucius?
I have to check for that one for you.
I know he doesn't have an NCAA title.
Does not. He co-holds our school record. He at 27-4, never won an NCAA.
He jumped 27-4 at the meet and didn't win.
Yes, at the meet.
So no, there's quite a few people out there with bad birthdays. It's like anybody. I mean, here's a great example. I think her name is Sheena Tosta now. It was Johnson. Actually, I always messed it up.
Oh my goodness.
I said I always mess it up, right?
No.
You should have said something when you were talking.
You're right. I should have continued. Go ahead.
I'll back
No. Go ahead. You go ahead.
I have others, so I said I'll go back to.
No, go ahead. In college, it was Johnson. Absolutely.
And she's in conference at the same time as Jenny Powell and Sonny Roseby and who's the other one? There was 3 of them.
Oh, there's a few, but you're going Sheena.
What's it called? Dawn. She was in the same time as Dawn.
But on the same team. But you're going Sheena. You're going Sheena in relation to short hurdles, because Sheena did win the NCAA and break and set the record in the long hurdles, which was her primary event, and that's the team that she made and all of that. So, from a short hurdle perspective, absolutely.
Yeah. So I just think. I mean, I'm interested to see where we get to on this, but I'm going to say on the guy's side, just to get myself back in the lane, because I love this topic. I'm going to go with Reggie Jones and Festus Igbudugeni as my 2 all-time guy jumpers with just absolutely horrific birthdays.
Well, I hadn't pondered professional level. I thought it was NCAA. Like I said, Benny Brazil was my clear and obvious choice for the NCAA. But if I was gonna pontificate out to the professionals, I'm going back to Calvin Smith, to a topic that we had in previous discussions for a different reason. Calvin Smith, and when he existed in this sport, couldn't have been worse timing for Calvin Smith. It. I mean, and it ain't even about the talents of the other people that he had to take L's from. It was about the timing of the drug scandals of the people that he had to lose to. So if he exists in a different era, I think his, star and his legacy and the way he would be remembered would be so much more the way he deserves to be remembered, because he was an absolute stud and existed professionally at the absolute worst possible time he could have.
Yeah. I got one for you. Kendall Ellis.
Ah.
Kendall Ellis is the NCAA indoor champion. And when they replay the meet on television, they don't even show her race because Sydney McLaughlin was running in the other heat and she broke the junior record. So you're the NCAA champion, you're the NCAA record holder, and because somebody else who's a little more star power would say, wrong birthday. Because if Sydney's not in that meet, we're going crazy over Kendall Ellis, and justifiably so, because she beat Sydney. And hardly anybody knows, because the television announcers went crazy over Sydney.
Right. You had to be a true geek watching the internet broadcast to know that happened in the moment. That's right.
Exactly. Right. So.
Well, collegiately, how about this for females? There have been 2 jumpers on Lucius's campus that were done in by one Miss Katura Orji on the front end and the back end.
Yeah.
Right? There's 2 of them.
Yeah, but see, but here's the one thing: Sierra Brewer is the only collegian to ever beat her.
Never beat her. She's the only one that ever beat her.
But Sierra would, go to me. Here's 45-11. Katura's like, I ain't getting it. Giannis, David, heck, even Daryl McQueen. Daryl McQueen goes to the national meet and has to jump of her life, and Katura's like, I don't think I'm gonna let you. It's like Katura was saying, you're right. So like we had 3 on this campus at some point that took big L's from that young lady. Big time. Man.
How about
I'll give you another one to the professional level. How about Asafa Powell? You know?
No, I can't give you a soft foul because
No. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I know he didn't get it done when he was supposed to, but if Bolt doesn't come along, how much bigger is a soft foul?
No
He's
bigger.
not. The loss to somebody else.
I'm not going to do that, but I'm just saying that.
Can't run races like this.
Nah.
I think the guys.
Okay, so I'll give you a West Coast special from the high school level that nobody will probably remember. Javid Best.
I remember.
What? You're a West Coast guy. I know you know this. Javid Best, for people that don't know, went to the California state meet, the real state meet in the country where there's not divisions, just one race. Javid Best went to the California state meet, ran 20.7 in the 200 meters and got absolutely destroyed by Brashawn Nellam, who ran 20.4 in the same race. Any other year, he'd have been the dude in high school track and field, and everybody would have been like, oh my God, what's going on out there in California? And he was so significantly separated from in that race. It was tough to watch. Richmond, California, Javid Best.
I forget the young lady's name, also the California State meet. And it's as bad that I forgot her name because she's from Oakland. She ended up going to UCLA. But she lost the hurdles at the state meet. She ran like 13.3 and lost the hurdles to Vashti and then lost the triple jump to Sierra Brewer.
Oh, I'm Richardson, Kenaya Richardson.
Kenaya Richardson.
Yeah.
She ran like 13.30 something and jumped like 40 at the state meet and got thrashed in both.
yeah, that happened. That was a rough.
Okay, look, third place in that race, Dallas Marshall ran like 13.61 and literally nobody knows. She got a full scholarship to go to Arizona and she got third.
That's true. No, that race is ridiculous. Everybody in that race ran lifetime best by significant margins.
Jasmine Baldwin just barely snuck in a decent birthday at the end because the first 3 years she had Allison to deal with.
Yeah.
Got it.
I don't know, man. There's some birthdays out there. There's some people out there who are absolute superstars that nobody like I'll say this. I know that Mike Morrison, the black one, had some issues, but I think if he's on that Florida team without one or two people, or he's on Florida's team a couple of years earlier or a couple of years later, he has like room to shine. But Karan like cast this like California redwood tree size shade around everybody on that team. And so there were some monster people on that team and several others in the conference that they're like, good for you.
Now you speak to that, Omar Craddock.
I mean,
like
yeah.
Omar Craddock is the 9th furthest triple jumper in history. He's still the 3rd best guy on his college team.
Ouch.
Think about that. He's the 3rd best. He's the 9th best guy in the history of the sport. And even with that PR, he's still the 3rd best guy on his team. So Omar Craddock had a bad birthday. But he was able. He actually was okay at the end because Christian and Will went on. But
I was about to say he was on the team. They were all on the team at the same time, right?
For 1 year. For 1 year.
For 1 year.
Yeah. And then after that, But like I said, but he's still got to deal with him at the next level. Yeah.
I know this is probably
imagine those conversations at the dinner table, right?
So think about this. How about every American female sprinter during Evelyn Ashford's career?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's other people that ran under 11 seconds when Evelyn was around. You just don't know them.
Right. Well,
you just don't know.
She was the standard bearer for sure. Yeah.
Because she was the standard bearer like globally for so long, and she was racing dudes, so it was just like,
She was racing dudes. Yeah.
I mean, look, go back and if you ever want to be entertained, go watch the '83 IAAF World Championships. The marks in the meet are insane, But just watch the women's races, and you're like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like barrel-chested women, like
back to the original subject. Any distance runner that had the misfortune of having to deal with Edward Chesrick, so they all have bad birthdays. Yeah, it was like just like I saw an interview a couple of weeks ago where somebody asked Robert Johnson, how did Edward Chesrick never win the Ballot? That is the biggest travesty ever.
Yes, it is.
A man has more NCAA championships than anybody ever, crushed people at will, and he never won the Ballot.
Well, you know what? Just from a semantic argument, on the issue of the Bowerman, you could argue that Edward Chesrick had nothing but bad birthdays, because the people that he lost to were not bad choices.
No,
yeah.
Which one was a bad choice?
I would just put it like this: his sophomore year, he should have won. I'm gonna just say that because he was the best guy. Because the guy he lost to his sophomore year. I'm not saying the guy he lost to was a bad. I'll just go ahead and say it. He was better than Deion Lindor. Lindor won the 4 indoors and out, but that dude won everything. That was a bad choice in my opinion.
And the funniest part about this, I think that's the only one that would be up for debate. To be honest, as good as
the others aren't.
The other ones were L's. Like
the others, you're sitting in the room and you're like, dang, I really feel bad for this kid, but he's gonna lose. And you know what? He should.
He should have won that one. He should have won.
The Lindor year. Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
So I have a vote for the worst birthday of all. Larry Myrick's.
Yeah.
Look, Larry Myrick's PB is over 870.
And nobody knows.
I don't think Larry Myrick's won 10 meets as a pro. And if he did, all 10 of them were meets Carl wasn't in. Because Carl Lewis had a winning streak that basically lasted the length of Larry Myrick's career. So if I'm going to pick a birthday that I wouldn't want to have, it would be Larry Myrick's. Because I would hate to be not good, great. And he had no chance of winning the Olympic gold medal. He had no chance of winning the world championship gold medal. And he had no chance of being a world record holder. Because as long as Carl had a jump, which he always had a jump after Larry, always, he couldn't beat him.
Right.
Got it.
I guess that or any 400 hurdler that was running for like 98% of Edwin's career either.
Right. That's a problem too, yeah.
But none of those guys like ended up being great. I mean, most of them were really good, but Larry is under any circumstance, Larry's a great long jumper.
See, another guy that has maybe the worst birthday ever is Andrew Valman.
Yeah.
Andrew Valman ran 44-24 and he never made a team as an individual. So that's the best leadoff guy ever in my opinion. But like you watch, I go back and I find the videos. I saw a lot of those races live, and he was always right there. But he could never, like one year he lost to Michael, Butch, and Quincy. Yeah. But
I mean, in '88 he lost to Butch, Danny, and Steve.
Exactly. Yeah.
He lost the 3 dudes that ran. Like the slow guy in that group is 43.87.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
bad birthday for Andrew Valman.
Well, you're literally having people go Google some names right now, and everyone's like, "Well, I didn't know who that was." You go research who they are,
right?
And hold in my kids for birthdays who don't have people surrounding them. You're literally going to have people start forging birth certificates in the next few years. So good job, guys. Good job. But as always, we will close out our episode with our heartbeat props, giving shout outs and accolades and recognition to those who are here that can receive these notions while they're still here. So who would like to start us off tonight?
Lamar, you go first. You went last week.
I'll go first because I usually go last. So,
okay. Ladies first. Ladies first.
He's heard this story a few times and doesn't remember it, and that's okay too, because that happens with older age. But Larry Wade. So, and I guarantee you he doesn't even remember the situation. But as I was getting hired for San Francisco State, as I gave Kendra Reimer Gonzalez her props last week, I was fortunate enough to meet Yvonne and Larry at the same time, and it was told to him that I was going to have my first collegiate interview, and he's like, "So what are you nervous about?" And I was like, "Everything and anything there could be. Breathing at the wrong time, I don't know, you know." And he sat me down, and we were at his dinner table, and he literally just broke down layer by layer by layer, and he's like, "If you can't sell me you, I'm not buying nothing." And I'm almost definite I cried. I'm sure I cried, and not like sobbing, but like, I'm worth nothing. Oh my gosh. And literally from that moment forward is the person you see today, the person you interact with. You know, the confidence, the ability, the know-all as to who, what, and what I bring. It is attributed to that literal moment. It started there, and I haven't looked back, because again, if I can't believe in myself and sell myself, there's no way that anybody else is going to buy me. So for that, Larry Wade, you have my heartbeat props for this week. Thank you very much, sir.
I'll go next. I often tell people when they ask me about, my career, I tell them first and foremost, I've been lucky, fortunate, blessed, however you want to look at it, to be raised in this sport by legends. Vince Anderson, Curtis Fry, a bunch of people. But the first legend that I ever got to spend any real time with was John Smith. And I shout out John Smith this week because he just turned 70 years old. Happy birthday to the legend. John recruited me out of California high school. I was, I think I have it right, the number 2 hurdler in the state of California, number 4 in the country. But I had got a ACL reconstruction my sophomore year in high school. And fall started my junior year in high school on my way to the state meet. So I only ran at the state meet once. And John recruited me, got on me really, really late. And you got to understand, I was a legacy for UCLA. My mother went there. My aunt went there. My uncle went there. Everybody wanted me to go there. I didn't want to go there at all until I met Smith. Until I met John Smith. He brought me down. And this was a time at UCLA where they were in a head coach transition, moving off of Barb Larson and moving on to Art Venegas. And long story short, John brings me down there. Of course, I'm in awe of him and the HSI crew and all of that. And I'm like, of course I'm going to go run for this dude. And then Bob Larson tells me that at UCLA, we don't offer full scholarships. You're getting 50%. Well, as a kid from a single parent home, that was a deal breaker. I looked at John and I was like, hey man, y'all shouldn't even brought me down here for that. When do I go to the airport? And to his credit, John, within 45 minutes, got in contact with Art and had Art come over and talk to me. He was like, listen, we're doing this transition in 2 to 2.5 weeks. You're going to be on full scholarship. Don't worry about it. And John saw enough in me and thought enough in me to make sure that deal got done. And for the next 2 years, I got to learn from, a person who a lot of people believe is the GOAT. I got to watch him not only train and learn from me with my collegiate crew, but John thought enough of me to allow me to be around the HSI crew. And I spent way more time training and interacting with the HSI crew than I ever did with my collegiate teammates. And he saw something special in me that allowed him to put me in that box. And, I learned a million invaluable things from that man. And if you've ever had the opportunity to sit down and talk to John, you know that he will just randomly drop jewels in your presence and things that you want to soak up and listen to. And he has a way of communicating that is unique to him and unlike anybody else in this business. And so, his career accolades are, I could be here for an hour, but for me, he was the first legitimate voice that I ever heard from in this business and the first legitimate coach that I ever had in this business. And so for me, I'm extremely lucky to say that John Smith was my original coach. So happy birthday, sir. And you are a legend.
Yes, he is.
You know what, Lucius? I'm gonna let you go last this week.
Wow, I feel honored.
You know, it's funny. I was thinking about this all day, and you know, a lot of people go through my head, and then I got the right thought, and I was like, how did I think anything other than this? I'm gonna truncate this story, but I'll say this. A lot of people think like because they've seen you do great things that you were always great or you always thought you were. And I'm gonna say this. I was first recruited. The very first person that recruited me is the person that's getting my heartbeat props. And this person coached at an all-male Division III school. I always mess that up. And on my recruiting visit, I got left in the gym for about an hour and a half because he had a meeting pop up and he gave me a basketball, and I had a propensity for liking to dunk. And so when I came home from my visit, I also was then being recruited by the basketball coach. I was just in the gym by myself. I didn't know anybody was ever watching me. But the fact that this gentleman got me to take one of my 5 official visits to an all-male Division III school in the middle of Indiana should tell you all you need to know about it. Because this gentleman chose to move from the East Coast to the middle of nowhere in Indiana as a black man and take this job at an all-male school as the only African-American. And while he was there, they built the Malcolm X Center. Let me just, look, we could be here for hours about the things that one Mr. Robert H. Johnson, what does he always say to you?
Tell me something good.
Robert H. Johnson, tell me something good. He's one of the most incredible people I've ever met in my life. And if you've never met him, he's actually worth a trip to Crawfordsville, Indiana, to have lunch, because he's an incredible human being with cult of personality. And he knew that it was a long shot to get me to come there, and he wasn't even sure which part was the hardest, that the school record was 2 centimeters further than my, at the time, high school PB. I actually ended up jumping further than that in high school, or that there were no girls at the school, or that the school was like 99.5% white. Like, he didn't know what the issue was going to be, but he asked me, and I didn't even think about it. Like, absolutely, Coach Johnson, I will be there. When is the visit? And I seriously considered going there, because Robert H. Johnson is one of the most incredible people. He's an incredible teacher of the sport, both the sprint side and the jump side. He invited me to my first national level sprint camp. I went to a sprint camp with him, Remy Korchemny, Curtis Fry. And by the way, I ran 10.75 in high school. So how I got an invite to this, I do not know, but yay. But at the end of the day, I guess I'll just say that, you know, as we get older, we start to realize that some of the jewels of our sport are leaving us, and without the right amount of fanfare. And so, because Robert H. Johnson is not gone, I want to give him his props right now, right here. And I want to encourage everybody who is within 150 miles of Crawfordsville, Indiana, who's a coach, black or white, get in your car and drive to Crawfordsville, Indiana, to Wabash College, and spend a day having lunch with one Mr. Robert H. Johnson, and make sure that you can tell him something good.
And the deal breaker was definitely there was no girls on campus.
I mean, that was tough. That was definitely.
Yeah, trust me. You don't have to explain it. We know. So my heartbeat props. My heartbeat props I'm gonna give to a guy that is one of the giants in his industry. A guy who watched me as a high school coach and saw something in me and decided to give me a chance to be a member of the Gator staff, even though I, at the time, didn't have my degree, but just told me that he wanted me to continue to work towards it. And not only did he encourage me to continue to work towards it, he actually helped pay for it as I was reimbursing me for my classes. When the time came and the head coaching job became open here, he kind of went out on a limb and decided that, he trusted me with the keys to the program, and he thought that I could take it to a different level. He not only was a great boss, over the years we became great friends. We are still great friends. A guy that you always know where he stands, a guy that I'm thankful when I walk into my house, when I get into my car, because he changed my life with the opportunity he gave me to coach at the University of Florida. He gave me the opportunity to be the head coach of the men's program, and then when he gave me the keys to the women's program as well. And I just want to say thank you to Jeremy Foley, because from day one, from the very first time I sat in his office, all he ever did was trust me, believe in me, and challenge me to do better. And I still I look forward to those calls and text messages I get from him still to today, even though he's retired. We still communicate. So Jeremy, you're my heartbeat props this week, man. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Awesome. Great, heartfelt, sentimental words by all. And that's always a great way to end our conversation, leading us to the next one. But thank you, gentlemen. Audience, wherever you are, thank you so much for your, Mr. Huffins.
We want to encourage, we have a surprise coming for the viewership. And so we want to encourage the viewership to send in questions that they want to know, or things that they want answered about the Athletics LLC crew and about the show. I don't want to reveal the surprise, but email, what's your email, Chu, that you want to give them?
Our email is athletics, athletics.llc@gmail.com. So go ahead and rewind that to hear that one again.
So whatever it is you want to know, how did Lucius and Lamar and Clyde and Big League get together? And,
I feel like we're getting set up for the okie doke here, but that's all right. I'm going to roll with it.
Hey, we may or may not answer all the questions, but.
Right. That is true.
That
is true. Yeah.
But we do have a surprise for our family, and I want to encourage them to give some thought and throw some questions out there that they want to get asked about us.
Yeah.
Anything you want to know about us, anything you want to hear us discuss, just let us know.
Yeah. Like we tell our mentees, a question can't get answered if you don't ask it. So.
And the only stupid question is one you don't ask.
Don't answer. Don't ask.
We'll see about that.
What's in the cup?
Right.
Now he's gone to a plastic, so we can't see inside of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sir, it's not good. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for a great, almost 2 hours spent. But as always, it's always informative, and we grow every single time. As individuals and as an audience, we grow. So thank you so much. But other than that, we'll sign off and see you to the next time.
Peace.
Shout out to Julio. Peace.
When the lights come on, the roaches get to running. When the lights come on, opponents smash the plumbing. Heard you like it warm, hot, knife the butter. Truth hit them hard, knock them off that rebuttal. Tsunami, tidal wave to your puddle. Tough love, punch you in the arms, little brothers. Athletics LLC, there's no others. Track and field's pacing with pill to go further. Hey, Wiley, Coyote, it's road runners. Feels like you know us, you've been with us the whole summer. If not for this quarantine, these four corners wouldn't be here, but we here, so start learning. You gotta earn your stripes, gotta get your scars. Show you how to fight, but show us who you are. You lack experience, but still you wanna talk. And who is actually talking to you? Circle's kinda small. Heads prevail when the backbone's strong. Gotta keep it coming, no, it won't last long. Pass and fail, then sell the sad song. And if you don't check yourself, then that's wrong. Just trying to give you the real that you asked for. So why you keep cutting us off to ask more? We put it in slow-mo, but you fast forward. Athletics LLC, the task force.